system, yeah.
Just quickly, why did you defect?
Well, as I think largely it is due to the kind of dissatisfaction that we've seen in the affairs of the party over a while with regards things, key issues like the levels of impunity, the regard for the rule of law, the level of inclusiveness, the consideration to the wishes of the people, other party members, at the different chapters, not ready for us to engage more in participatory democracy. For a while, we have made this view across because certain actions have been taken, right from very early on for things like dissolving the executive in a particular state. But for us in Kwara State, because you say at the end of the day, you must bring the politics back to your own constituency. What broke the camel's back for us was when, leading to our local government election, where we had carried out primaries as a party. The party had come from Abuja to supervise our primaries. And those of you that know, local government election is probably, as far as the people are concerned, the most important election because this goes to the grassroots. People had gone around in campaign, they'd done primaries for councillors, 193, and we're going to election after electing our flag bearers. And then I think 24 hours before the election, somebody sits in Abuja, decides to just write another 193 names and send it to the state INEC commissioner to say these are the authorized candidates of the party. There are certain things in politics, once you do that, you totally break the whole process. Those are some of the things you just don't do. As far as the people are concerned, is that so their wish, the exercise they've gone through, the process they've gone through of internal democracy, all of a sudden the level of impunity, somebody can just sit down and write that. As far as people, that was the point, that was the turning point for us in the state. And that is such a big issue. And for us in Kwara State, it was clear from that point that we had lost total confidence in
Do you think, sorry, Sulaiman, do you think that it reflected the level, because some people will say that this was also a reflection of your relationship with President Jonathan, that at some point you had declared for presidency in 2011. Yeah. It didn't quite work out, but eventually I think you worked with him for the 2011 elections. Yes. But it would seem that something did happen during, eventually when you went to the Senate. Yeah. And it would seem that, the relationship wasn't all that rosy anymore. One of the things that people point to was the fact that you were the senator who raised or who brought attention to the subsidy scam or the subsidy problem and brought attention to it, and the Senate started an investigation. Quickly, though, I want to also quickly ask this. Are you satisfied with the resolution of the subsidy brouhaha in the Senate? Or generally in the country? Which of the questions do you want me to take? The second, first part? I just don't want to forget them. Okay, right. There's so many, waiting to be asked.
Listen, as you rightly said, in 2011, we in Kwara State, we worked for the president. Even before then, when we went to the primaries, one of the major issues was that even the delegation in Kwara State, when we had a meeting the night before the convention, I just said to them, look, let everybody go and vote their conscience and give support to, who they wanted to vote for. And after the primaries, we worked for the president. And I think I try to separate personal relationship with issues. The issue of the first subsidy, honestly, was a difficult decision for me personally, because I knew the ramifications of it. I knew that it could be misread, but it was such a huge issue that I had to consult a lot of people, and I finally decided that it was best. Even for the government, it was best for the country. Because as it's come out later, everything I said on the floor, I remember then a lot of people said the figures were not right, what I was saying was not true. It was because, or maybe because I had ambition, I didn't want to support the government. And it was much later on when the Minister of Finance and a certain committee set up came back with facts that truly supported what I had said about 2 months before that government now realized that there's a lot of fact to it. Now, since then, I mean, I think, was it last year that even the Minister of Finance was quoted as saying that they have saved 900 billion naira on better management of the fuel subsidy. You know, I was saying, oh, well, thank God, at least, you know, that motion led to something of savings on 900 billion. And I also say that, you know, sometimes those in National Assembly, you get a lot of hard time from people, and some of these credits do not go, because if not because of the action of both of the House and of the Senate, today we'll not be talking about that savings. And it's really, those could have been prevented. Are we better off? Have we improved? I said yes, I think we've slightly improved, but we're still a long way from getting it right, because some of these resolutions are still ongoing, and some of the things that should not have been done properly are not being done properly. I mean, for example, if you talk about the issue on kerosene, for example, I find it just so difficult sometimes to understand that, where we're spending close to 700 million daily. I mean, that's what, 21 billion monthly on some subsidy that doesn't even have any approval. And if you look at it over the year, you're talking about 252 billion. That is equal to the amount we spend on education. Now, for an expenditure that is not authorized, that's point number one. It's disturbing. And I do not think that when you speak on those issues, you are for against Jonathan. I think when you speak on those issues, you are for Nigeria. And we must begin to see it like that. It is not personal. The question is that for as long as we allow middle management or head of management to take those kind of decisions, are those decisions that we've all sat down. We've all sat down as stakeholders, and we all agree, you know what, let us spend this kind of money on this issue. Fine, then we can all be accountable to it.
But just quickly though, just so we don't forget as well, what went wrong with your relationship?
Nothing went wrong. Nothing. I think that I always say that some of the issues I talk about are not personal. Look, when late Yaradua was president, there was a policy he had, which was the policy we had on how to improve funding in the agricultural sector. And a lot of problems, remember in those days, you could not find long-term funding for agriculture. And they came up with a policy where you could get 10-year money. It started from the time of Soludo going on to President Obasanjo. But it was finally done under Yaradua. I think it was about 100 billion of funds available for agriculture, long-term funding, 7-year money. And some of what I pushed to say that we needed long-term funding. So the President Yaradua made it available. And the money was made available in Central Bank. Then the money was moved from Central Bank to 2 commercial banks. And it now stayed in 2 commercial banks. But because some of the commercial banks were benefiting from having those low-cost funds, some of the processes to disburse money to farmers was going at a very, very slow pace. And I remember in the office of the governor of Central Bank, Governor of Niger is alive today, and the former minister of Agric, I raised great objection to it. And I told Mr. President that this is not fair to the farmers. The point I'm making is that, as you all know, bless his memory, President Yaradua was close to me, but did not stop me from telling him that this is wrong. So the point I'm making is that some of these issues that one raises is not personal, that because it's Jonathan. And they're not minor issues, they're major issues. Like where we're talking about, look, we're talking about last year, before the fuel subsidy came out, we're talking about 1.3 trillion. Now, because I raised it, or someone on the House and the Senate have raised it, we're saving 900 billion. That's a lot of money. 900 billion is almost 70% of the total capital expenditure for the country. So I think that some of these issues, some that are misread, to name they're personal, and they're not personal. So
you're satisfied with the resolution that the Senate and the House eventually came up with?
Well, we're satisfied. The resolution is one thing, but what about the implementation as regards the resolution? I mean, we have come up with issues, but I'm not satisfied with the fact that we have not completely eliminated all the leakages and excesses there. I mean, definitely we are much better from where we were in 2010, 2011, no doubt about that. And PPPRA, have definitely improved. There's no doubt about that. The kind of abuse that used to happen have reduced, but I still believe that, particularly in some of these areas, on the issue of the kerosene, on issue of things like what they call the crude swap, or all those kind of ways, there's still areas for great improvement.
Well, anyway.